Welcome back to another Raiderland Podcast, the variety where we sit down, maybe stand up. You can't tell, you can't see us. I'm Ryan Hyatt. He's David Collier from Red Raider Nation, KMAC 28 Sports Director. We'll start off talking about 5 and 7 teams going to a bowl. Kirby Hocutt made it patently clear at his State of the Program address he's against it. I think we're both against it. Do you agree with me? Sometimes things just need to be over.
Yeah, and I think this is a perfect situation. I mean, given the problems that led into that Baylor game and all of the fear from the fan base that everything was falling apart and there was a potential for a change at head coach, and to be able to kind of right the ship against, admittedly, a Baylor program that's, man, it's sinking fast and it's going to finish 6-6, and who knows what's going to happen after this.
But you still got a lot of goodwill out of it.
Yeah, you got to win. Your offense looked good. Your defense looked good against them at times. So, yeah, why not end on a high note and get that victory and avoid any possibility of being embarrassed in a bowl game? A bowl game that doesn't mean anything. There's only 3 bowls that mean anything now.
Yeah, and there's no upside for this Texas Tech team right now. And people say, well, what about the practice? Well, that's so overrated. It's just a few sessions. Particularly the bowl game you're going to go to is going to be played on, what, December 8th probably?
Yeah, it's going to be a quick turnaround.
You know, you're not going to get much. And then with those practices, what do you do if you're talking about developing for the future? You're not going to practice your seniors for the bowl? You're not. It really makes no sense when you start to analyze it. David, I've seen it a lot of times over the years in basketball with the NIT, and you're not one of the 64 or 65 or whatever it is now, however many teams get in. Yeah. Sometimes your year just needs to be over. There's a reason you're not there, and you need to crumple that paper up and throw it in the wastebasket. And that's what I think needs to happen with this team. Go out on a high note.
Yeah, it's not going to get any higher if you play whatever directional or you play Louisiana Tech or something like that. No, you beat a Baylor team that was ranked in the top 8 in the country at one point this year. That's good enough.
All right, let's go to Hocutt's presser on Sunday, the State of the Program press conference. I don't want to focus on Cliff as much right now as Hocutt. And I thought one of the things he did maybe was yoke his future to Cliff Kingsbury's future. When he talked about continuity, stability, stay the course, was he as much saying that he's all in on Cliff and that means that his future can be determined maybe what happens over the next year?
Oh, I would think so, because, I mean, we've talked about this in other venues, but no matter how successful anything else is in this program, if the football program isn't what fans want it, that's what Kirby Hocutt's legacy is going to be. And I would say even more so that he latched himself to Cliff whenever he gave the contract extension. And he was just reaffirming that on Sunday, and he felt like he needed to do that, and he probably did in this situation.
And professionally, Kirby is still a young guy, and he's got a really bright future in whatever aspect of college sports, whether it's at a university, conference level. The college football playoff is a huge platform for him to showcase his skills nationally. I'm not trying to run the guy off, but I'm saying it's very possible this is not his last job. And I think he went out there as much, I'm going to use the word promoting the optics of Kirby Hocutt Sunday as he was Cliff Kingsbury. And that's not a bad thing. I took away some of that as well. And, hey, if you're Kirby Hocutt, you want this to look as good as possible right now. You got to sell it that way.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, for many reasons, not just for his own personal future, but, yeah, for the university's sake, for the football program's sake. I mean, I think he did a good thing. And it was from my understanding that this situation was not necessarily a, state of the program address, if you will. It was something that, at least talking to people with inside the university, a lot of people had asked to talk to Kirby, and instead of sidestepping everybody, he said, you know what, I'll do it, but let's just do it all in one big press conference. And it wasn't a timed press conference. It wasn't like, a post-game presser where, the coach has got, maybe 8 questions in him or something like that. Before it started, we were told, ask as many questions as you want and he'll answer them. And I think that, like you said, it's basically him showing, hey, I'm here to do my job, and this is what I'm trying to do to make it better.
All right, before we get out of here this week, let's talk about the mandate to Cliff Kingsbury, the change that's being mandated publicly by Hocutt for him to, I'm just going to put it this way, do less of what you're good at, Cliff, and do more of what we didn't hire you to do. I think the job description changed 4 years on Cliff. I don't know that that's fair.
It's probably not fair, but I mean, he's getting paid a lot of money, and they don't like the performance to this point overall, so they've asked him to improve it, and I can't blame him one bit for that. So, it's part of the deal.
But you knew what you were getting when you hired him. You knew you were getting a guy who'd never run a program. You weren't hiring a guy who was a proven program leader. any of that. You weren't hiring a guy who'd ever, worked on the defensive side of the ball. You knew that when you hired him, and the deal was he's going to make the offense so great that all you got to do is get a good defense coordinator, we'll be fine. Now that job description changes, and I think if you're Cliff Kingsbury, what are you going to do? Walk down the hall to David Gibbs' office and say, hey, let me show you how to do this, Coach?
Yeah.
It's an odd dynamic that I see that you very rarely see change, I think, like this, and it works. I'm not saying it can't work,
but yeah.
I'm saying it's hard to do that.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird for me because I was never in at any level of football in film sessions on offense or defensive sides. So I don't know the logistics of how that would work. And Kirby had mentioned in the press conference on Sunday that he would spend time, and he knows these offenses that are in the Big 12, and he could kind of tell David Gibbs and just from a guy in the first place. Yeah, well, I mean, because he was so focused on making that offense so good. Apparently, at least that's what we get out of it. But it does seem weird to me as a person from the outside looking in that, again, never had was no insight on this. That Cliff has always, his mindset has always been to stop the defense and not worry about what the defense is doing, but finding a weakness in the defense. Yeah. Now, maybe he can look at the defense and go, well, there's too many weaknesses for me to help you out with right now. I don't really know what.
Sorry, David.
But he can't do that because, that's not a good morale boost for the defensive staff. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, he knows how to attack certain things, but maybe they just don't have the personnel to fix that problem.
I'm fascinated by it. It's going to be interesting to watch because I look at some of these things that are being said publicly and now the change apparently that'll go on behind the scenes in the day-to-day operations. Cliff Kingsbury's a smart guy. He's been around some pretty smart coaches at high levels. I would like to think that if he thought any of those things would have made the program better, he would have done it over the last 4 years.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
And I'm not saying people can't change. I just think 4 years in, it's interesting to see this dynamic, really this business model for Texas Tech football is now going to be different.
Yeah, I mean, but at this point, it's a situation maybe that you got to try something different.
It's not working.
Yeah, it's not working the way it is right now.
All right, you guys can tell us what you're thinking down in the comment section below. We'll try to answer all your questions, any you've got. And if there's something you want us to talk about, by all means, drop us a line. Love to hear from you guys here in Raiderland. We'll see you next week on the podcast.